Hi, I'm Al Lowe, and I'm listening to Adventure Game Hotspot.
Welcome back, or welcome front if it's the first time joining us. This is Adventure Game Hotspot Podcast. I am Joshua. We have Jack, co founder of Adventure Game Hotspot, and we have Bo with us. How the heck are you guys doing today?
Can't complain.
I'm great.
Can't complain and great. So, this is week 2 of Adventure Game Hotspot website, and we have obviously Jack's been here before, so you know Jack, but let's talk a little bit about Bo. I'll let you know that Bo is a staff member of AGH, and he does a lot of writing for us, and he's going to introduce himself now. How's it going?
It's going great. Yeah, my name is Bo. I live in the Minneapolis area. I married with 2 children. I'm a mental health social worker. Um, and yeah, I fell in love with adventure games probably when I was 8 years old. When my dad let me play along with him with Police Quest 2. And I never remember if, there's a scene near the end where you're on a plane and there's a hijacker, and then you have to disarm a bomb. And my dad was looking for the knife. He swore there was a knife on the plane, and I told him to search in the hijacker's pockets, and he's like, nope, it's not going to be there. And he checked every single overhead compartment on the plane, every single seat, and an hour later he finally took my suggestion, and we were on our way. So
Kids know, man. Kids know.
pretty hooked after that. And yeah, we had Zork and King's Quest and all that, and pretty much been my hobby ever since.
Nice. And what exactly are you working on right now for AGH?
I am in the middle of 2 reviews. First one is The Excavation of Hobbs Barrow, which should drop hopefully next week. And I'm also working up on a review of Sam Barlow's Immortality.
Oh wow! So you got the fortune. You're the fortunate one to get the hot game out right now, Jack.
There's a lot of hot games out right now. I'm telling you.
That's what I was gonna say, Jack. You are working like crazy, like a madman. First of all, I apologize. Jack is working like 10 to 12 hours minimum a day, writing and editing and trying to get content out on the channel. Why don't you tell us what's going on, Jack?
Well, yeah. I mean, just first of all, to start with, getting a new website off the ground feels a little bit like getting out and trying to push an 18-wheeler up a hill, but we're getting there. And it's just been we haven't even been in existence for 2 weeks yet. It's just been absolutely insane. October is always probably the busiest month for adventure games, and this month has just been even crazier than I remember. So new games being announced, new games releasing, and of course we're cranking out new content. So just in the last week, we've reviewed some older games and a couple of newer ones. Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo, an interesting time looping game called Eternal Threads, and a game most people might have heard called Space Venture that we've all been waiting for 8 or so years, or I kind of lost track at some point. So we also reviewed Lost in Play, a really awesome looking family friendly game. And I did an interview with David Younger of Foolish Mortals, who has a Kickstarter right now. So I would encourage everyone to read the interview and check out their Kickstarter. And it's new games coming out, a new Tales from the Borderlands, which is pretty amazing. It's a lot of people's favorite Telltale game. This one isn't from Telltale, but it's sort of picking up where its predecessor left off. And then there's Lucy Dreaming, an amazing looking retro game, sort of half and half between real world and dream world. And Jennifer Wilde, Unlikely Revolutionaries, which is a really, really neat looking black and white 1920s Paris mystery where a young woman has to solve a mystery with the help of the ghost of Oscar Wilde. So, some pretty impressive stuff coming out.
I imagine it's because everyone's trying to get their games prepped and ready for fourth quarter and Christmas sales and all that. I imagine it's a race to the table trying to get.
Yeah,
get
and
the
I think
food.
they've learned that a little sooner is better than too close to Christmas. The holiday season kind of used to be December, but that just got too crazy, and then it got moved back to November, and somehow that's sort of morphed into October. So everything's coming out in October now.
Man, that interview that you did with the youngers, David, that game, if I was wearing a skirt, it would blow up my skirt. I have not been that excited. That's not true. I was that excited for Return to Monkey Island. Outside of the obvious Return to Monkey Island returning, that game's it, man. No.
It's amazing, right? And their very first game. It's ridiculous.
And
it's
it
ridiculous
was
how talented indie developers are now.
fully funded in like one day.
Yeah.
They're great
But
at
still
marketing as
lots
well.
of stretch goals to reach. So,
Sure.
Just because they made the minimum doesn't mean they can't use more support. So.
Oh, absolutely, and they're fantastic. I would bet on them. As developers, like they seem to be great at marketing. They're interactive, and so they talk a great
so
game.
it's not even
Quick.
backed by faith. You can check it out for yourself, and I think you'll be impressed because I sure was.
I remember thinking when Jonathan Boakes released Dark Fall and everyone was falling over themselves, like, this is incredible from an indie developer. And now, like, 50 games a year are released with that or higher quality.
Yeah.
We are certainly in that era where games are coming out quickly. They're easier to make, I suspect, than they were, 10, 15 years ago. Obviously, I'm not a developer, but
Yeah,
people
easier
are jumping on it.
tools-wise, let's put it that way.
Sure. Sure.
There's still a little designing and writing that goes into making a good one.
Well, of course. I mean, a lot of the garbage ones, and there are garbage ones.
There are garbage ones.
Every seed that gets thrown out there, 1 in 10 really gets planted nicely, and you get a nice blade of grass that grows. But it takes someone who's going to be willing to follow through, willing to put in the time, willing to go out on a limb. And then obviously that goes on top of having the skill to be able to do it. And
Yeah.
so, speaking of skill, being able to do it, we're going to be talking about games that we believe are underrated, games that we believe are overrated. And that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to start on the overrated side. So kind of, we'll bring you down, then we'll pick you back up. And then we'll do that dance a little bit more.
Some sacred cows might be harmed in the making of this podcast. So.
Likely. Let's start with our guests for the day. Bo, what do you have as an overrated game?
Are the people watching live got their pitchforks ready?
Well, we're going to find out.
Probably. It's the internet.
All right. Well, I think the most overrated game I have ever played is Broken Sword: Shadow of the Templars, otherwise known as Circle of Blood, which is what I'd rather be in than ever play that again.
Oh, man.
Ow.
Goes for the jugular.
Okay, you're gonna have to explain that one.
Yeah, I'd like to hear this too.
Part of it is the game design, which is not. I mean, there's a lot of great qualities to the game design, really good production values. I thought there was a lot of pointless conversation. Not a lot of character development, and but the main reason is I just hate George Stobart.
Oh, that's my
I
guy.
don't think
That's
I've
George
ever
the
seen
Cat
a more
Stobart.
unlikable character in a video game. He gets involved for no apparent reason at all in this adventure, other than the fact that he, is attracted to Nico.
Good reason.
Like his mannerisms
We
are
are men.
juvenile. He's got
Yeah,
clumsy bravado.
me.
Like, and what really made me mad was like the whole game. Nico is like disgusted by him, which she should be because he's disgusting.
That's just
And
not
then
true.
at the end of the game, she's like, "Oh, I guess I'm in love with you," and that felt like came out of nowhere.
Oh man, I don't think that she's disgusted. She acts a little hard to get at the beginning, but she's French. She's French. Oh well, Jack, you wanna jump on that one first?
Jump on that one?
Yeah, you wanna agree or disagree? Let's go around the room and say, let's say if we agree or disagree, and then we can rebuttal.
Well, I'm closer to disagree. I mean, I don't have a passionate love for Broken Sword, but I certainly find the first one in particular to be a quality game. So, I just think, like, I understand though, if a character doesn't mesh with you, if you can't relate to them, if you just don't jive, you can't really get over that hump. But so yeah, I mean, I guess George is a bit of a dope, but it didn't really bother me. A lot of adventure game protagonists are, so I just kind of rolled with it. Plus, you gotta love Nico.
I disagree. In fact, Broken Sword is my favorite adventure game of all time.
Whoa!
Yeah.
I should have just stood back and let a cage match happen.
Yeah, no, but this is something that I've had a discussion on this show with Jeff Tripoli before. He said exactly the same thing that you say. Doesn't like George, doesn't like the reason as to why he's on the adventure. To offer rebuttal from that, they kind of speak on that in Broken Sword 4, which was a terrible game. Broken Sword 4 was terrible. However, in Broken Sword 4, they talk about how George was kind of down on life. The middle age, which we get to be around George's age, which I was. I'm past that now. You want something else. You're looking for something. So he went to France and was looking for just something different in his life. He found that excitement. He found that adventure, and he went, like I mentioned, chasing a girl. I don't know how realistic that would be, but I truly enjoyed it. But I can totally, as Jack said, I could totally agree with you. If you do not like a protagonist, the game's over for you. And
Yeah.
All right, Jack, what do you got?
Okay, well, I'm going to preface this by saying, by no means, this isn't a bow and broken sword kind of thing. This is not a game that I think is bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it has a few major issues that I just can't get past, and that is Gabriel Knight 3. Gabriel Knight, brilliant series, Jane Jensen, amazing writer, and that continues to be true in this one too.
Yes.
But man, that early phase of 3D games for the adventure genre was tough to suffer through. That, I mean, I can't describe it any other way except to say it's butt ugly. And but that pales in comparison to my biggest complaint with the game, which is the most god-awful control scheme ever conceived for a video game. It has its supporters, but I can only say that those people must never have played any other any first-person shooter or anything, because it's just, it's horrible. And there's, it's no surprise that literally no other game has ever taken that scheme and, adapted it. So I think the verdict is in on the control scheme, at least.
I think that the adventure game industry has admitted its failures by remastering these games, and all of those 3D games that have been remastered have gone to the point and click interface. And I agree with you. It's ugly. It is ugly. It's blocky. You call someone a blockhead, and that's an insult. But they literally chose to make Gabriel a blockhead. Amazing story. Probably the best story that I've played in an adventure game. Ugly game. Terrible. I hate the camera. I hate the camera.
It's horrible.
That could be a top 3 to 4 game for me of all time if it was strictly like point and click. If they remastered and did it like Broken Sword, or not Broken Sword, Gabriel Knight 1, you did that remaster and made a point and click, even though I don't necessarily like Gabriel Knight 1, the remaster, but I would enjoy it. So, what do you think, Bo?
I don't think it needs to be point and click though. It's just, with modern tools, it doesn't need a remaster. It needs a remake.
Yeah.
With a newer engine. You can still do third person free roaming. I'd love to see that. If any game needed a remake, it's Gabriel Knight 3. And you'll notice that not one of my complaints is about the cat mustache puzzle that Old Man Murray blamed for the downfall of the genre.
It is a bad puzzle, but no, I agree with you, Jack. The graphics are horrendous. The play control makes Grim Fandango look smooth and easy.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with Josh. I think the story is excellent, but the dialogue is very weak at times, and it's hard to replay because of all the problems. So,
what was the computer program on that? Do you remember what the computer program was called? It's on the tip of my tongue, but I thought that was a really cool concept that they had.
It was, yeah, and I can't remember.
Well, we have so far just totally shot to pieces two iconic adventure games, and we're going to continue to do that because I'm going to say that Myst is one of the most overrated adventure games of all time. I believe that it gets its rating strictly because it was new to the party. It was the hot chick at the party at that time. However, eventually something gets older, new chicks get to the party. The transitions of the pictures and the screens were terribly off-putting for me. There's very little content to the game. Very little content to the game. It's not pretty. It's not attractive. Even for the era, I didn't find it pretty or attractive. I do enjoy the sounds, the ambiance, beautiful and all that. The puzzles were really good. However, there's just not a lot to the game. And I think it was more marketing that we believed that we had to like it than in reality as to how great it truly was. And I'll say I'm not a hater of Myst at all. I appreciate where it's at. In fact, I loved Riven. I thought Riven was, it kind of did away with some of the things that I thought was jarring. So that is my thoughts on Myst. What do you think, Bo?
It was the first game I thought of when making my list, but I didn't put it on there because I never finished it. I tried in 1993 and I couldn't, and I tried in 2003 and I couldn't, and I tried a few years ago and I couldn't. Even with a walkthrough, I just had to stop. So, yeah, for all the reasons you said. And I always felt disoriented, like I never could tell exactly where I was or what I was looking at and, how to get around. So,
Jack?
Well, less a case of my thinking it's overrated than having to admit to myself just how terrible I am at Myst. It didn't make my experience very enjoyable. But it's funny, I actually disliked Riven more because it was, like, at least with Myst, it was self-contained and, I had a chance of, working out the puzzles. Riven was just so huge and sprawling and clues everywhere and puzzles everywhere. I was just lost all the time. And the original version came on something like 4 or 6 discs or whatever. So it was constantly telling me to swap my discs while I was playing.
Oh, that's so annoying.
Oh man, I wanted to drop kick those things across the room about, halfway through. But they're amazing. And Myst was a really incredible technical achievement at the time, and and it was something new. I think we need to value, the games that do innovate, that give us something new, and it will always have value to me on that basis alone. Whether it's the greatest game or whether it's been surpassed by others of its kind, that always happens with innovators. So, I don't think it's overrated.
Well, do you think that it is accurately rated when people say that it's amongst the best games of all time? I think that's probably a better question.
I can't quantify how people
Sure.
who like that kind of game enjoy it. Like I can't get into that mindset just because I'm so terrible at it. So, but no, I think that's fair.
That's
I
a
really do.
reasonable
There's a
reasonable
certain
answer.
amount of probably a certain amount of nostalgia involved in that too. But that's
That
fair.
is very important when rating a game.
And
because
that's true of
heavily
all our favorites, right?
influencing factor. So we've just destroyed everybody's childhood. Let's bring everybody up a little bit and let's talk about what we consider to be underrated games. So why don't you go ahead and get started with that, Bo?
All right. Well, my first game is not underrated in the gaming community, but I never hear it talked about in the adventure game community. And I really think people should give it a try. It's Beyond Good and Evil. Released in 2003. It's a action adventure game, and I could see a lot of adventures gamers not getting into it because it is heavy on the action. But if you're good at something like Zelda, the difficulty level on Beyond Good and Evil, doesn't go past that, and it blew me away with how creative it was. You're fighting off aliens and trying to uncover a sinister plot, but the only way you can gain currency in that world is to take photographs of your enemies before you kill them. So you have to utilize stealth and sneak up on them and take a picture of them first. It's so engaging. The characters are lovely, including the main character. Her sidekick is a talking pig, and it feels totally natural in this world. And they worked on a sequel for almost 20 years now, and now the guy who created the first one's dropped out, so it's really disappointing. But I think if you liked Portal, if you liked Fahrenheit, games that have a little bit of action, I think you'll like Beyond Good and Evil.
Jack?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's very much an action adventure, but it's probably one of my top 5 games of all time. And it's funny because Joshua and I were talking about great action adventure games in the last podcast I did, and I completely forgot to mention it. And like you know how it always happens. Like as soon as the moment is over, you go, "Wow, I totally forgot Beyond Good and Evil. I should have said that." But so yes, it's just an amazing, amazing, amazing game. But it's very actiony. There's some combat. It's not for the diehard point and clickers, that's for sure. But it's great.
I'll take your word on it because I've never played it, but I will now.
You must.
I will now. I've actually, we were talking off air, not just on air, about these games as well, and Jack gave me a list of games. I will add that to my list. And so, all right, Jack, what do you got?
I'm torn now. I had a list of games, but because it's been brought up, I'm going to shift gears and throw out something a little bit controversial and say my underrated game is Broken Sword 3. I have no idea why. Okay, yes, it has way too many block shifting puzzles, admittedly. But to me, it was just such a breath of fresh air. Like, I felt like I was actually in control of a character for the first time, not just clicking and waiting kind of thing. Yes, it was super simple. There was, you weren't doing your own jumping, you weren't doing your own climbing, that kind of thing. But it felt fresh. It felt like, something new. And I really appreciate that about the game. And like, it was fairly popular when it first came out, but over the years, it's sort of become, more and more of a trend to hate on the game. So I'm going to pimp for Broken Sword 3.
Jack, oh man. I go by Weird Gaming Adventure. Jack, I love you in a weird way. I was going to say Broken Sword 3 as being underrated, so I can't say that now, but I will just say that I believe it gets too much hate. The controls are hard to get used to, but once you get used to it, it is natural. You know, I do feel like I can move around and have a little bit more control of my character. It does have a lot of box. It does have a lot of ledge puzzles, but that's okay. You know what I mean? Maybe a little too much.
Yep.
But I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed going back to the Templars and that. And to my knowledge, and I have not done any research on this, but there's a lot of you had to make some quick decisions and stuff. And I don't remember that being in like choices like that, being in games prior to that.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of a huge rage.
Right. Yeah.
But so clearly I agree with you with that. So I'm going to have to throw that one off my list. And I will say I think Runaway is underrated. And again, you mentioned nostalgia being a powerful influencer, and I think this is something that for me I might actually overrate the game too much because it brought me back into the adventure game field. I guess I enjoyed the game. It brought me back to liking adventures, and so it's just an absolute gorgeous game. The voice acting in it is absolutely gorgeous. I enjoyed the puzzles. People hate that it did not it was a little too much pixel hunting. I enjoyed it. I did not use a walkthrough. It took me a long time to beat it, and I felt very accomplished when I beat it. Were the characters a little stupid? Brian wasn't too bad in that. The second one, or what was her name? Gina or something?
Yeah.
I didn't really care for her too much in the first one, but yeah, so Runaway 1 is underrated in my book.
What do you think, Bo?
I think it's properly rated. I bought it because of the really high review it got on AdventureGamers.com. I agree with pretty much. I mean, I agree with what you said, Josh. I especially love the turret puzzle. If I was making a list of, my top puzzles of all time, that might be up there. I just couldn't get past the the translation into English. I just felt it was really weak. It distracted me a lot.
I can see that.
And I thought, and Brian, that's the main character's name, right?
Brian Basco, yeah.
I felt like he was a middle schooler doing a speech in front of the class, and he'd have to start with an introduction to everything, and then tell you how it went, and then tell you how he accomplished it with a summary at the end. And I don't know if that was just a scripting issue, translation issue, or what, but it just put me off.
Huh. Okay. What do you think, Jack?
I think there probably was a little bit of overrating at the time because it was such a wasteland for adventure gamers or adventure games at the time it came out that people were just going, this is just like the classics. It's a beautiful point and click. And it was all those things. And, we were so starved for it that we overlooked some of the nuttier puzzles and stuff like that. But I also think, almost like Broken Sword 3, it's kind of tipped a little too far the other way ever since then. Now it's kind of popular to hate on it, and I don't really know. It's better than that. It's a flawed game, absolutely, but it is gorgeous, and it's a substantial game, and it really felt a need when it came out. So, I'm for it.
Now, 2, on the other hand, that was terrible. That was real bad. Real bad. All right, so okay, we brought it back, guys. Now we went overrated, underrated. Now we're gonna bring everybody back down a little. Let's kill the classics again, Bo.
Stir it up for the arrows again.
Who you got for overrated, buddy?
I'm going to be a lot nicer this time, mainly because I feel like I overrated the game when I was younger and first played it, and that's King's Quest 6.
Okay.
I think, the production values are amazing. There's a lot of fun puzzles in there. the story for Roberta Williams is pretty good. Like it actually develops as you go along. You actually there's plot twists. I think there's a couple of parts that just I can't consider it a great game anymore. One is that probably the coolest part of the game, which is the Cliffs of Logic and the
Yes.
Catacombs, are just one giant copyright protection puzzle.
Rise, man, rise.
Oh, it just I mean, that's like a good hour of the game that is just one long copy protection, which I think is unexcusable. And then there's probably one of the worst Walking Dead situations in adventure game history. If you don't talk to the lamps guy at the beginning of the game, and you try to go the ending through the underworld and using magic, you can't win the game. You get stuck at the end, and that can take away 6 to 8 hours of gameplay. So,
And you don't even know it.
no clue.
Jack, what do you think?
I've played it. I honestly don't have strong feelings either way. I just gotta say I'm amazed at the level of detail you guys retain. I barely remember stuff from the game I just finished playing, let alone something I played once 15 years ago. To remember the kind of details you guys are doing impresses the hell out of me. But yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good, but I don't, it's not among my personal list of favorites. So, I'll just let it slide.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just did I ranked my top 100, my personal top 100, and I believe that fell at number 8 for me.
Oh man, you are.
Yeah,
like,
no, but
chilling.
that's okay.
Josh's list.
Like the things that you mentioned in that is the things that keep it from being much higher. Any game that has a Walking Dead situation to me is unforgivable. It's not a good idea. And when I talked to Roberta about that, she literally implied that they were trying to add value to the game. She said that if people are going to spend $50 to $60 on a game, that you can't look at the game as a whole. You have to look at the saves as part of the game, going back and everything. They wanted to give people value for their game. And looking back, that obviously wasn't a good plan. But that was the first game that I remember as a young man or a teenager at the time. Well, geez, much younger. That had perspective. It had like a perspective in the art. Like you're looking at things from a different perspective than just like 3/4 overhead, side. You're looking behind a bookshelf, or to me, as a young man, I thought that was really, really neat because I was heavily into art at the time and influenced by those type of things. The story was a nice little hodgepodge of stories put together. And now that you say it, I think I can make a case for me possibly overrating the game, if I'm to be honest. And so that's an interesting thought that I'm going to have to think about more seriously.
Yeah, I have to add, you mentioned Roberta saying that they were trying to create replay value, and I had an email conversation probably 20 years ago with Al Lowe, and I love Leisure Suit Larry too, but that game probably has 8 or 9 Walking Dead situations, and which is just ridiculous. And I asked him about it, and he said the same thing, that it was done for replay value, and he agreed that it was unforgivable. So
I don't think that they wrote them in there. I think they just kind of allowed them to go by, and that's
and then justified it with, oh well, hey, they get more value out of it that way.
Yeah,
it's not a bug; it's a feature.
Yeah, we're doing this for you guys. Yeah. What do you got, Jack?
Okay, now this is another one that is not a bad game, remotely a bad game, and I know it's incredibly popular, but it just did not resonate with me in the slightest. Is Return of the Obra Dinn.
I'm sorry, say again?
Return of the Obra Dinn.
Huh. I don't think I've played it or heard of it.
Mm-hmm. What? Oh, Okay, we got to get you back up to speed.
Oh, I know for sure. When did that come
latest
out?
game, but it's a social deduction game where you're on a ship and you're trying to solve a mystery, but you can only do it by rewinding time and studying little frozen tableaus of what happened. Brilliant concept, and I love the social deduction idea, but it's got two colors, two, and one of them's white.
That's not a color,
And-
dang it.
Yeah, wow. So yeah, one color basically. I could not get past the aesthetic, and I found kind of getting around to be difficult too. So I just there was a level of detachment I felt playing that game that I just couldn't get over, and it just kind of left me feeling cold. And I don't so much disagree with the people that love it as I envy them, because I understand that what the game is going for, and I wish I felt that way about it, but I just don't.
We have people in the chat that are disagreeing with you, Jack. They
No.
they like it. They like
Yeah,
it.
no.
Little
I
Cave
get
specifically
it.
says he loves that game. And
Who
so-
was it?
Little Cave in the chat. Little One
Oh.
Cave says that
Sorry,
he
pal.
loves that game. I can't comment on it because I wrote it down. I just wrote it down to look it up, but I've never played it. So, pass. What do you think? Bo?
I think someone mentioned it in the Discord channel in the last couple of weeks, and that was the first time I'd ever heard of the game too. So
Oh, really? Oh.
Jack, you're smarter than us when it comes to adventure games. So-
Well, I mean, I've sort of every single adventure game for the last 18 years or so has crossed my desk in some form or another, so I should know them, but
Well, that would make it more of something to where you would, kind of forget them because you've looked at everything. Maybe that's why you don't remember too many of the details.
you don't forget Return of the Obra Dinn. Trust me. As soon as you see a screenshot, you go, "Holy smokes, what is that game about?"
I'm going to say that Thimbleweed Park is overrated, and I can't preface this because I've already said it, but I will say that I enjoyed the game. In fact, I very much liked 99.88668.6% of it. The ending is just. I felt all of my work was they took all the validation of the game and just shot me with it. Like it was an unforgivable ending to me, and it ruined that entire fun experience of it. And it was a fun experience. It was fun puzzles, and there was charming characters that you can kind of bounce back and forward to. And it had a lot of time in that game. I think it took me like 17 hours or something to beat it. So it was a quality game, but I think people rate it too high based on who made it.
Yeah.
And, because of, the pixel art was starting to become like a big thing again. And so I think I got it like 28 or something of all time, or 30 of all time on my list. But people are like, you say that it's not in your top 10, and they get upset. They get upset with you. So, what do you think, Bo?
I've only put a few hours into it, and I'm pretty sure based on those few hours that it wouldn't make my top 10 either. But I was enjoying myself. I moved on to something else and haven't gotten back to it.
Well, I'm glad I didn't tell you the ending, because you wouldn't play it anymore if you
Appreciate
figured
it.
out. What do
See,
you
here
think?
again, I have to marvel at you guys remembering details. I played Thimbleweed Park, and I thought it was quite good. Not brilliant, but quite good. I have no recollection of the ending whatsoever. But I think it's hilarious because, like, people complain about Monkey Island 2's ending. People are complaining about Return to Monkey Island's ending. People are complaining about Thimbleweed Park's ending. And I asked Ron in our live stream if he liked pulling the rug out from under people's feet, and he basically said, "Yep." leave people with something to think about. But
I totally
that
thought
can
that was
be
one of the things you were
uncomfortable,
referencing to him, like one of the aspects of his endings that you were referencing to it for sure. But Okay, so there we go. There's two. Let's see what time. I think we're running a little short. What do you think? We want to do a quick one more round?
Yeah, of the underrated.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's
Yeah,
do a quick round. We won't do too
got to
much
balance out
analyzation.
the positive and negative, right? Go
Yeah.
for it, Bo.
Okay. Weird to call this game underrated because it won Best Game at the 2002 AGS Awards, but I think there not enough people talk about King's Quest II: Romancing the Stones by AGDI. Um, I think it's one of the most brilliantly made adventure games of all time. It is incredibly complex. The puzzles are jaw-dropping. Uh, the Easter eggs are hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Mandel, reprises his role as King Graham. He even, uh, gets to have a little fun with Cedric the Owl. Um, I've played the game several times, and I'm just in utter awe every time I play it. And it, I'm just surprised it doesn't make, you know, top 20, top 50 lists. It's just amazing.
I'm gonna jump you, Jack, because I feel so strongly about what you just said, and I just got to give you. I didn't even think that was on the table. It didn't pop into my head. Bravo, that is number 18 on my all-time list, and that sounds like it's way low. Like that doesn't sound very good. Number 18, but there's some amazing games from like 17 to 1, and that is a free AGDI game. I mean, they added to the story. This is just so good. So good.
I mean, they tie in everything from the first game through the seventh game.
Yes.
And I mean, the original game was just a complete dumpster fire, and I'm so glad they did what they did with it.
What do you got, Jack?
I got nothing to add to what you guys said. You guys are the fans, so I'll just let you. Usually, you're at loggerheads on these favorites and non-favorites, so I'm not going to mess things up on the one game you actually agree on. So,
Well, do you agree or disagree? Let's just say that.
I mean, it looks. I did play it, but again, I don't really remember much. It certainly looks amazing, and like what an accomplishment by an indie developer making a free game. Just like that's amazing. So
That's good analysis. Well,
My turn?
who you got for underrated?
Oh man, I'm so torn because I've got like a list of games I want to give, but all right, I'll force myself to go with Bad Mojo. Now again, not underrated in the sense of thought to be a bad game, but just never given the recognition I think it truly deserves. If you don't know it, this is kind of a Kafka-esque riff on Metamorphosis, where a man is turned into a cockroach, and not a cutesy, fun, big cockroach, but an actual little disgusting, scurrying little creature. And you literally you have no arms, you have arms. I mean, you have no hands, no inventory, all you can do is run around and do what a cockroach does. And you go across these various realistic household environments and just kind of have to solve puzzles by bashing things with your head and doing things like that. So that's really amazing. It's just like totally unique. Nothing remotely else like it.
You mentioned Kafka, and that's enough to sell me on the game. Never played it because, like you said, it's a roach.
Yeah.
But I've been intrigued by the game Stray that recently came out, and I thought hey, that sounds like a Bad Mojo style style
very
of
much.
game, and everybody's so awesome. They love Stray, but yeah, it's a cat. People
Yeah,
people like
exactly.
cats.
Cats tend to be a little bit more popularly received than, why don't I play a cockroach in a game? That sounds fun. But it's amazing. Great game.
My most underrated game, and this is going to sound like a broken record, but I don't care, is The Lost Files of Sherlock Holmes. In the case of the Serrated Scalpel, I don't want to break it down more than I have. People who follow me, who follow even this podcast that I've talked about it before, I just love that you can interact with everything. I love Sherlock. I just love that game. It's so good. It's just so good, and a lot of people rate it highly, but I believe that it could be a top 10 all-time game for me. It's outside of my top 10, but anything could go up and down, and that's one of those that's truly on the cusp. We have Cabri. I'm glad to see Cabri in here. He's said that where was it? Oberdeen
Oberdin.
Oberdin is one of the greatest games, he says. It's the greatest modern adventure games. So, Mystery of Time and Space, people say, is underrated too. All right. So there we go. We have our overrated games. We have our underrated games. And so once again, we're going to do a top 5. We're going to do a top 5 of, gosh, what was it? Oh, Tough Guys. Tough Guys. Adventure game Tough Guys. That's what we're gonna be doing right now. And this is something that we're gonna be stepping on each other. So I think we're just gonna maybe go around the room, see where we can come up with. Maybe do 2 each or something like that. I'm sure it'll be 5, at least 5 total. But there's just not a lot of options when it comes to tough guys or girls in adventure games. So, Bo, who do you got as a tough guy, girl adventure game protagonist that you liked? Or just character?
Yeah, I got a whole list, so I don't know what you're talking about, but I'll start with Mo Corley. She built a carburetor at age 4. She was raised by the vultures and survived. She, she has no problem standing up to Ben Throttle. She's badass.
Oh man, Full Throttle reference. Love it. Yeah, man. She not only rebuilt his bike, but she rebuilt Ben. So, Jack?
Yeah, I actually had Ben on my list, but when you make a case like that for Mo, I certainly can't argue with you. It's a great choice. I think I'll start with, since we were talking about Thimbleweed Park earlier, I think I'll go with Ransom the Clown. Now, this is a tough guy in name only. He is like the definition of all talk, no action. But I mean, this guy is angry and he insults everyone and he swears so much that it has to be bleeped out. And he's so hilarious. But man, he does not like anybody and he has no qualms about letting them know.
There is no character like that in any adventure game that I can remember.
He's amazing.
I had him on my tough guy list.
Oh, did you?
And I like how you so casually chose 2, but you didn't actually choose one. So I'll go with Ben Throttle too. You throw out, I had Ben Throttle on there, or Ben is that his last? That was his last name, wasn't it? Ben Throttle. But I'm gonna go with Ben. He is the first thing I think of when it comes to tough guys. He's kicking in doors. He's not putting his lips on that. And he does the whole the knife game. Yeah. If you're in a bar and someone's doing that, I'm good, man. Here, can I buy you a drink? You know what I mean? Just steer clear of that guy. So, Ben Throttle.
And apparently Cabri agrees. Roy Conrad, right?
Oh God, Roy Conrad is amazing.
Yeah.
The whole cast, Mark Hamill, everybody.
That's another great game, by the way. All right, who you got?
Well, I can't talk about adventure games with anyone without digging into the Longest Journey series and April Ryan. She spends the first game getting led to believe that she's the guardian of both worlds, and then is just told, "Just kidding."
Psych.
And then watches all of her friends get murdered. And then in the second game, she is just a relentless, cold killer. She doesn't care that Zoe's trying to save the world now. She's just like, I'm doing my thing. And I don't know, her arc in that second game is wonderful and one of my favorite characters of all time.
They truly are like the antithesis of each other, the character between 1 and 2. It's a total pendulum swing there, and it's almost disturbing for me. It was hard for me to kind of get into, what was the second one? Not Fahrenheit. What was it called? Dreamfall? Was it
Dreamfall.
Dreamfall? Yeah, Dreamfall. But yeah, I could see it. I could totally see it. Who you got?
I'm gonna go this is from all talk and no action to somebody whose bite is way worse than his bark. I'm gonna go with Bigby Wolf from A Wolf Among Us
Okay.
from Telltale, as based on Bill Willingham's Fables comic book series, and he is the literal embodiment of the big bad wolf in human form, or at least sometimes in human form, because he actually has the ability to transform into two separate, more wolf-like forms. But like even in his human form, he is just so cool and badass. And yeah, you definitely don't want to mess with him when he starts bearing the fangs. Let me put it that way.
Okay, and that's that's a popular opinion, I'm sure. I'm leaving an obvious one on the table here, but I'm gonna go with probably my favorite is Max from Sam and Max. You're pretty much starting the game with him ripping off a head. He thinks he's ripping off the head of a human, but it's just a robot. He strangles a cat. Not that I think that that's something that should be done, but if you've got the if you've got the huevos, or
You're worrying me, pal.
yeah, to actually do that, that's somebody that you don't want to mess with. Like, you don't want to mess with that crazy little rabbit there. So
Yeah. Don't get on Max's bad side, that's for sure.
let's go one more round, and then we'll I'll read some of the ones that are in the chat. How's that sound?
Yeah, good. Go boat.
Oh, I had a couple of guys listed, but I don't have a whole lot to say about them, so I'll just keep with the theme. One more lady, and I'll go with Princess Rosella. She survives being swallowed by a whale. You know, she kills a lot in her sleep. She has no problem talking back to her mother. Yeah, she's pretty cool.
She's also a little whiny, though. Yeah, at least in number, like, she's in 7, she's pretty whiny. Like, I'm an ogre, a troll.
I try not to acknowledge 7 very often, so
That's an okay game. What do you think, Jack? What do you got?
I'm going to go back to one of my favorite game series of all time, which is GLaDOS from Portal.
yes.
Oh.
I say she. Technically, she is a computer, not a woman per se. But man, she is just such like Joshua. I agree with you. The adventure genre doesn't have many like amazing baddies.
Mhm.
You know, just really juicy bad guy roles, and she is one. She's just so cool, calculating, and funny. Like if she had a physical form, you could imagine her smiling as she kind of stabs you in the back while talking to you and telling you how wonderful everything is, because that's pretty much what it's like to deal with her disembodied voice running you through this rat maze of trials and tests. So just amazing bad guy.
She does have a physical form, a potato.
Yeah, okay.
That's one way of looking at it. I love my Portal. I thought I was kind of leaving you guys some low-hanging fruit, but it made it back to me. I'm going to choose Tex Murphy. Like, Tex Murphy is a trench coat wearing, just drinking it up, punching an alien in the throat guy, and being too drunk to realize he just did that type of guy. So Tex Murphy is that was actually the second thing that I thought of when it comes to tough guys. So Ben was the first. So Tex Murphy.
This is cool.
I thought about him, and I consider him more like cool or campy than tough, but yeah, he definitely crossed my mind.
So let's get a little bit of thoughts from the chat. Cabri and Little One Cave are just going back and forth here as to, they're just naming names here. Azrael from Gemini Rue.
He was on my list.
Indy from Fate of Atlantis. Kate Walker. I don't find her tough. I didn't play the last one though. She looked tougher in the last one.
She finds her backbone, that's for sure, as the series goes on.
Let's see here. I didn't play this series, but Ace Attorney counts. Or Manfred von Karma and his daughters were extremely tough. Capri says Purple Tentacle. Don't find Purple Tentacle tough. Bigby is great. Let's see here. They said Tex Murphy as well. Grace Nakamura. Manny Cabrera from Grim Fandango is tough, but in a cool, suave way. All right. So that is that. I appreciate you guys running that by us. This is a pretty efficient show. What do we got this week on Adventure Game Hotspot, the website, Jack?
Well, I mean, nothing is set in stone just yet, but with November just around the corner, we're going to have a little video preview of what's coming up next month. We have a couple more reviews. I think Voodoo Detective will be the first one up. And I'm really hoping that we will have a review of a little game called Return to Monkey Island next week. So, and if not, well, maybe I could do the excavation of Bob's Barrel. But Bo will have to finish it first, so I can't speak to that yet.
Bo, that means you're on the hot seat, my friend. But now you're off of it because the podcast is over. What do you think, Bo? Did you enjoy yourself?
Very much.
We're going to have you back on
Absolutely.
another time. Jack?
Great list, too.
As always, I respect and I appreciate you. You guys both did a fantastic job.
Cool.
If you liked this podcast and you're listening on Spotify, Apple, anywhere where you consume your podcast, do us all a favor. It really helps the algorithm if you rate it 5 stars, if you like it. We will be putting this out later on. I haven't made an announcement yet, but I will say that we have a YouTube channel coming. And you'll be able to find these on YouTube soon. But in the meantime, check them out on Spotify. Find us on our Discord channel, and that will be in the notes, the show notes as well. All the socials.
If you forget where to find them, just go to adventuregamehotspot.com, and you can watch them from there.
All of the socials, Adventure Game Hotspot, as you're looking at, it's right underneath the screen. It says #AG Hotspot. If you're posting anything adventure games, #AG Hotspot, guys. Help us out, and we'll help you guys out as well.
Right. Appreciate you guys.
For Bo, for Jack, I am Joshua, and it's been a wonderful time. Thank you guys. Have a great